Hi everyone! Today we're going to be solving rational equations. And first we'll do some practice problems, and then in the end I have two word problems. So, the two things to remember when solving rational equations is number one, you can either multiply both sides by the lowest common denominator to eliminate the fraction, or you can do another method where you simplify both sides of the equation first and then you solve the problem. And when you simplify both sides, you're left with one fraction on one side and a number or like a fraction on the other side, and then you can cross multiply to solve it. So this is the first question, and I'm going to show you both methods just for this first one. So the first method, so method one, where we find a lowest common denominator. And the lowest common denominator for 3 and 2 is 12. So then I'm going to multiply the whole equation by 12. So if we multiply by 12, you do 12 divided by 4 and you're left with 3. So you have 3 times x minus 3 minus, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 4 times x minus 2 equals, and then 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 6 times x is 6x. Then you're just going to solve this. So we have 3x minus 9 minus 4x plus 8 equals 6x. And then you can do 3x minus 4x, which is negative x. Negative 9 plus 8, which is negative 1, equals 6x. Then I'm going to add x to both sides of the equation. So I'm going to add x, and if I add x here, it's just going to be 0. So we're left with negative 1. We're going to add x here, so it's 7x. Then we're going to divide by 7. So we have x equals negative 1 over 7. And this would be our answer. And it's always important to plug this number back into the first equation just to see if it's right. So I'm going to do the second method right here. I'll do it in a different color. Okay. So, method 2. So the second method was simplify both sides of the equation first. And since x over 2 is already simplified, we only need to think about the left side of the equation. So in order to simplify this, we first need to find a lowest common denominator, which is 12. So 12, and then if the bottom is 12, I just need to multiply 3 over 3 right here. So we have 3x minus 3 minus 12, and here we need to multiply 4 over 4. So 4 times x minus 2 equals just x over 2 because that's already simplified. And then we're going to just subtract these two fractions. So we have 12. And then if we multiply this out, we have 3x minus 9 minus 4x, and positive because we have a negative here and a negative here. So plus 8 equals x over 2. Then we can still simplify this further. So 3x minus 4x is negative x. Negative 9 plus 8 is negative 1 over 12 equals x over 2. And now we've simplified both sides of the equation, so we're just going to cross multiply this. So then we have 12x equals 2 times negative x minus 1. So we have 12x equals negative 2x minus 2. Then we're going to add 2x to both sides, and we have 14x equals negative 2. And then we're left with x equals negative 2 over 14, which is 1 over 7. So this is our answer, and as you can see, we got the same answer with both method 1 and method 2. So both of them give you the same result. So moving on to the next question. So I'm not going to do both methods for all the problems. I'm just going to choose one of the methods. And for this one, I'm going to choose method 1 because the lowest common denominator here is x squared minus 3x. Because if we multiply x and x minus 3, if we multiply x times x minus 3, we get x squared minus 3x. So the lowest common denominator is x squared minus 3x. So I'm just going to multiply the whole equation by x squared minus 3x. So for the 4 over x, we're going to multiply this by x squared minus 3x, and then the x cancels out and we get x minus 3. So 4 times x minus 3 plus, and for here, the x minus 3 cancels out with the x minus 3 here, and then we get x. So we have x squared because x here times the x that we got from here equals, and then since x squared minus 6 and x squared minus 6 just cancel out, we get 20. And then here we can just solve this part. So we have 4x, okay, 4x minus 12 plus x squared equals 20. Then x squared plus 4x, and then I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides, so we have negative 32 equals 0. Then we have to factor this, so we have x minus 8, x minus 4, but this is positive, so it's x plus 8 times x minus 4 equals 0. So the two answers we have, okay, hold on, 0. So the two answers we have are x is negative 8 and 4. And we have to make sure to check if these solutions work by plugging them in here, but I'm not going to do that because I know this is the answer. And also, I don't really have much time. So, okay, anyways, so for this question, we're going to multiply x minus, I'm going to just do the first method of multiplying the whole thing by the lowest common denominator, which in this case is just x minus 4. So I'm going to multiply this whole thing by x minus 4. So for this one, x over x minus 4 times x minus 4, the x minus 4's just cancel out, so we're left with x, plus 1 times x minus 4 is just x minus 4, equals, and here the x minus 4's cancel out again, so we're just left with 4. Then we have 2x equals, and we're going to add 4 on both sides, and we have 8, and we have x equals 4. So that's our answer, but then we have to check and plug it in. And this time, I'm actually going to plug it in. So, I'm going to plug this in. But just remember, you have to always plug it in, even though I didn't do it to all the problems in this video. So I'm going to plug in. So we have 4 over 4 minus 4 plus 1 equals 4 over 4 minus 4. This is equal to 4 over 0 plus 1 equals 4 over 0. But first of all, you cannot divide a number by 0. So x equals 4 is not a solution. So we're going to write there is no solution because x equals 4 did not work. And you can also see here, and then you might ask, like, why did we do all these steps and we got x equals 4, so why doesn't it work? And it's because when we multiplied by x minus 4 to the whole equation right here, we eliminated these x minus 4's on the denominator. And when we do that, we have to still make sure that this value cannot equal 0 because the denominator of a fraction can never equal 0. So whenever we multiply the denominator, we have to make sure that we write x minus 4 cannot equal 0 and x cannot equal 4. So whatever answers we get, we have to always eliminate the 4 value, because if we plug it into this fraction or this fraction right here, the denominator equals 0, and the denominator of a fraction cannot equal 0. So yeah. Okay, now we're up to the word problems. So it says, Bob can build a house in 5 hours. Sally can build a house in 3 hours. If they work together, how long would it take to build a house? So there are a few different ways to approach this problem, but I'm going to choose one of them. And so first I'm going to think about the rate at which Bob can build a house, so Bob's rate. So the rate is measured in how many houses he can build in amount of time. So it said he can build a house in 5 hours, so he can build one house in 5 hours, so that's his rate. So now we're going to think about Sally's rate, which is the same thing as number of houses over time, and Sally can build a house in 3 hours, so one house in 3 hours. So their combined rate, if they work together, you're just going to add their rates, so 1 over 5 plus 1 over 3, right? Okay, then it says, how long would it take to build a house? So if we remembered, so if we take rate times time equals amount, or if you're doing distance, then it would be distance, but in this case, it's the number of houses. So if you want to see this in units, then you can see the rate is number of houses per hour, or time, times however many hours, equals number of houses. Okay, so in this case, the rate is 1/5 plus 1/3 if they work together, right? And times however much time. So, but that's what we want to find out, like how long would it take. So we're going to say x is the amount of time. So we're going to multiply this by x, the time, equals how many houses. So it says to build a house, so we only want them to build one house. So we have to solve for x to find the amount of time it takes for them to work together and build a house. So we have this equation right here, and we've practiced solving that in this video. So we're just going to do the exact same method, but first I am going to just multiply the x. So we have x over 5 plus x over 3 equals 1. And then for this time, I am going to simplify both sides of the equation, which is method 2, instead of doing method 1. So method 2 we're going to simplify. So 1 is already simplified, so we just need to do this side. I'm just going to draw arrows. Okay. So the lowest common denominator, 5 and 3, is 15. So we need to multiply 3, so 3x plus 15, and we have 5x equals 1. Then I'm going to add 5x plus 3x, and we have 8x over 15 equals 1. Then we're just going to multiply 15 over 8 to both sides, and we have x equals 15 over 8. So the answer is, and I'm going to write the answer in red, the answer is 15 over 8, or 1 and 7/8 hours, if Bob and Sally work together to build a house. Okay, so next problem. Okay, Bob can either drive or take an airplane. The airplane can travel 220 kilometers per hour, more than the car. In the same length of time it takes the airplane to go 390 kilometers, the car goes 60 kilometers. How fast is each going? So for this one, we are going to make a table, because a table makes the question easier. Like this. Okay. So we have distance equals rate times time, and this row is going to be for the airplane, and this row is going to be for the car. Okay, so it says the airplane can travel 220 kilometers per hour, more than the car. So if the rate of the car is x, then the rate of the airplane is x plus 220. So then looking at the other information in the question, it says it takes the airplane, in the same length of time it takes the airplane to go 390 kilometers. So the airplane went 390 kilometers, and then the car goes 60 kilometers, in the same amount of time. So the time is the same. Time is the same in both cases. So we are just going to write rate times time equals distance, but then use these variables. So we have x plus 220 times t equals 390. And then we also have xt equals 60. And since t is the same amount, it's the same variable here, we can solve both equations for t. So here we have t equals 390 over x plus 220. And here we have t equals 60 over x. So then we can just make 390 over x plus 220 equal to 60 over x, because time is the same. So 390 over x plus 220 equals 60 over x. Then we're just going to solve this, and I'm just going to cross multiply. So we have 60 times x plus 220 equals 390x. And then we're just going to solve this. So we have plus 60 times 220 is 13,200 equals 390x. Then I'm going to subtract 60 from both sides. So then we have 330x. And then in the end we have x equals 40. So the car is going 40 kilometers, because x is 40 right here. And the airplane is x times 220, so 40 plus 200, or x plus 220, so 40 plus 220 is 260 kilometers per hour. Okay, so thank you for watching, and please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos.